You set a goal to save money. You know it is the right decision. But then you find yourself clicking buy on something you do not need, undoing all your progress. It feels like self-sabotage, a war inside your own head. You blame your willpower, your discipline, or your character. But what if all of that is wrong? The feeling of being your own worst financial enemy is not a personal failure. It is the predictable outcome of a powerful, invisible law that your brain is designed to obey without question. This law operates below your consciousness, influencing every choice you make with money, from tiny purchases to massive investment decisions. It is more powerful than any budget or spreadsheet. This law explains why you avoid looking at your bank account after a weekend of spending. It explains why the long-term goal of a comfortable retirement feels less real than the short-term pleasure of a new gadget. It is the master algorithm that dictates your financial behavior, and for most of us, it is programmed to guarantee failure. Not because the brain is flawed, but because its priorities are ancient. For your entire life, you have been trying to fight this law with logic and shame, which is like trying to stop a river with a fishing net. It is a losing battle. But once you see the law, once you understand its single, simple directive, you can stop fighting it. You can begin to architect your life around it, making success the path of least resistance. So what is this invisible law that dictates our financial lives? It is a principle so fundamental that it governs not just your money, but nearly all human behavior, where there is a conflict between the present and the future. We are going to call it the law of emotional priority, and understanding it is the first true step to taking back control of your financial destiny. Let's break down how it works. The law of emotional priority is simple. Your brain will always prioritize solving an immediate emotional problem over solving an abstract future problem. Your brain is not a financial calculator. It is a survival machine, and its primary job is to make you feel safe and stable right now, in this very second. The future is a concept. A feeling is a reality. Think about a moment of stress. Maybe you had a bad day at work. That stress is an immediate emotional problem. Your limbic system, the ancient emotional part of your brain, flags it as a threat. Meanwhile, your logical prefrontal cortex is thinking about your goal to save $1,000 this month. To your emotional brain, the stress is a roaring fire, while the savings goal is a distant cloud. The law of emotional priority dictates that the brain must put out the fire first. And what is the fastest way to do that? A dopamine hit, a rush of pleasure and reward. And the modern world has made that incredibly easy to access. A few taps on your phone, a quick online purchase, and you get a momentary feeling of relief and control. In that moment, your brain does not register the purchase as a financial mistake. It registers it as a successful solution to a more pressing problem: emotional distress. You did not fail at your budget. You succeeded at soothing your anxiety. The self-sabotage is just the unintended consequence of your brain's brilliant but outdated survival strategy. The problem is that the solutions are now for sale everywhere. This applies to inaction as well. Why do you procrastinate on investing? Because thinking about the stock market creates feelings of confusion, fear, and anxiety. Those are immediate emotional problems. The law says, avoid that feeling now. So you put it off, choosing the immediate relief of not thinking about it over the abstract future benefit of compound growth. The sabotage is actually successful emotional avoidance. So your brain is not your enemy. It is just following its prime directive, using the tools available in the modern world. It is a perfect system for solving the wrong problem. The critical question then is not how do we fight this law, but how do we get this incredibly powerful law to start working for us instead of against us? The answer lies not in willpower. To make the law of emotional priority work for you, you must stop trying to change your mind and start changing your environment. The goal is to make your desired financial behaviors emotionally easier and your destructive behaviors emotionally harder. We must manipulate the triggers and the friction. Let's start with making good habits easier. The most powerful tool for this is automation. When you automate your savings or investments, you make one logical decision that removes thousands of future emotional decisions. Setting up an automatic transfer to your investment account the day you get paid means you never have to use willpower. The choice is already made. You are making the path of least resistance the path to wealth. This satisfies the brain's desire for ease and avoids future decision fatigue completely. Now, let's make destructive habits harder. We need to increase the friction. If you impulsively shop on an app, delete the app from your phone. Force yourself to use the website on a computer. Unsave your credit card information. Each of these steps adds a layer of effort, giving your logical brain a few precious seconds to catch up and question the emotional impulse. Another strategy is to make the future consequences feel more emotionally present. The idea of losing future compound interest is abstract, so make it real. Use a compound interest calculator and see the actual number. Write down what that future money is for, a specific goal, and look at it often. You are giving your emotional brain a concrete image of the future to compete with the immediate desire of the present. Similarly, you can introduce immediate, tangible consequences for bad habits. One classic example is the commitment jar. You tell a friend that for every unplanned purchase over a certain amount, you have to put an equal amount of cash into a jar that will be donated to a political cause you despise. This attaches an immediate emotional pain to the impulsive act, giving the law something to avoid. These are not cheap tricks. They are systemic changes. You are becoming the architect of your own choices, designing an environment where your brain's powerful ancient law naturally guides you toward your goals instead of away from them. You are switching the tracks for the train, but this raises a deeper question. This explains the mechanism, but what about the internal feeling of conflict itself? Let's pause and consolidate this new mental model. Your financial struggles are not because you are broken, but because your brain is functioning perfectly according to an ancient law in a modern world that is designed to exploit it. The law of emotional priority is always running in the background, like your computer's operating system. You now understand that every time you made an impulsive purchase to relieve stress, your brain was simply choosing the immediate solution. Every time you avoided a difficult financial task, your brain was protecting you from immediate anxiety. It was never sabotaging you on purpose. It was just solving the problem that felt most urgent. The feeling of guilt you have afterwards is the logical brain rebooting and seeing the long-term cost. This understanding is liberating. It moves the problem from one of internal character to one of external design. You can stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and start asking, "What is wrong with my environment?" This shift in perspective is the most critical step towards making real, lasting change, because it gives you a tangible enemy to fight. The strategies we discussed, automation, friction, and emotional reframing, are not about becoming a different person. They are about creating a space where the person you already are is naturally guided to succeed. You are building guardrails on the highway of your life, making it easy to stay on course and difficult to swerve off the road. This is the essence of behavioral design. By focusing on the system instead of the self, you drain the shame and guilt from the equation. This frees up immense mental energy that you were previously wasting on self-criticism. Now you can redirect all of that energy into the strategic, intelligent work of designing a better system for yourself. It becomes a game of engineering, not a battle of willpower. So we have the law that governs the system. We have the strategy to redesign the environment around that law. But what about the feeling of being two separate people? The logical planner and the emotional spender. Understanding the law is one thing, but how do you manage the internal relationship between these two parts of yourself? For that, we need a different, more personal mental model. Today, you've been given the master key. The law of emotional priority explains the invisible force that has been controlling your financial mistakes. It's not a flaw in your character. It's a feature of your brain's ancient operating system. You now know that to win with money, you cannot fight your brain's prime directive. You must accept it and build a system around it. This knowledge transforms you from a passenger in your own life to an architect. Instead of being a victim of your impulses, you can become a designer of your environment. By adding friction to bad habits and automating good ones, you use the law's own energy to propel you forward. This is the ultimate shift from reactive self-blame to proactive system design. You now have the blueprint for the why. You understand the fundamental mechanism that creates the conflict. You see that your logical goals and your emotional impulses are playing by two different sets of rules. One is playing chess, thinking 10 moves ahead, while the other is just trying to survive the next 10 seconds. This explains the internal civil war, but understanding the law is not the same as negotiating a truce in that war. Now that you can see the two forces at play, the logical self and the impulsive self, the next critical question is, how do you get them to work together? How do you lead and guide the powerful emotional part of you instead of constantly fighting it? Answering that question requires one of the most powerful mental models in all of psychology. It provides the perfect framework for managing your internal state and finally ending the self-sabotage cycle. It is the model of the elephant and the rider, and it is the subject of the video you see on your screen right now. It is the practical guide to implementing what you have just learned. If you are ready to stop fighting yourself and start leading yourself, that video is your essential next step. It will give you the tools to steer your immense emotional power toward your goals. So go ahead, click on the video on the screen right now to finally learn how to command the elephant. It is time to end the war.